Hare Krishna. Just a minute. Something I need to do. Okay. Okay, we are in Upadeśāmṛta. Just give me a minute. Okay. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's paraphrase of the Upadeśāmṛta. I don't remember if I did this, but anyway, let me do this. Better be safe than sorry. Shuddha Krishna Bhaktatar Swabhavik Dosh Ar Tar Deha Doshe Na Khori Horush. Don't become angry when you see a defect related to the material conditioning of a Shuddha Krishna Bhakta, a pure Krishna Bhakta, or his bodily defects. Prakrita darshane dosh jodi drishta hoy, darshanete aparas janibe nishchoy. If you see any defect through a materialistic vision, you should know for certain that there is an offense in that perspective itself. It's a defective perspective. Heen adhikari hoye mahater dosh siddha bhakte heen gyane na pabe santosh. Being a person of lower eligibility, when we commit such a fault in relationship with a great soul, when we consider a perfect pure devotee, Siddha Bhakta, to be inferior, then we won't be satisfied. We should not be satisfied. We should not be happy to consider a Siddha Bhakta, perfect pure devotee, to be inferior. Brahmadra Gangoda Pravahe Jakan Budbud Pen Panko Joler Milan. When the water of Ganga, which is spiritual substance, flows, then there is a mixture of bubbles, foam, mud with that water. Anna jal Gangala bhe eiko bhunoy tadru bhakter mal prabhu nahi roy. When water from other sources, they mix into the Ganga, then they are no longer considered inferior. Like that, a devotee, obviously in this context it refers to a pure devotee, he does not have any defect of this nature. Sadhu dosha drashta jai Krishna agya taji Garbe bhakti vrashta hoiya more adho moji. That person who sees defects in a sadhu, a bona fide saint, while disobeying Krishna's instruction, he deviates due to his pride and he dies having fallen down. Anuvritti, his commentary. Bhaktir स्वभाव जनित दोष समूह एवं शरीर दोष समूह द्वारा प्राकृत दर्शने भक्त के दृष्टि करिबे ना. Through a materialistic outlook, don't look at a devotee as possessing the defects that are born out of his swabhava, out of his material condition nature. And because of the defects pertaining to his body. Jerup budbud fena panka ganga jale milita hoile o niradharma prabhave gangodak brahmadravadharma paritya korena odru prakrita drishtite bhakter prakrita dosh samoh dekhiya tate bhaktir obhav ache mone korite hoibe na. Just as even when bubbles, foam, mud mix with the water of Ganga, the water of Ganga, due to the influence of such a nature of river water, does not give up its nature of being a spiritual substance. Like that, when one has, like that, one should not, in his mind, through his mind, one should not have a materialistic outlook towards a devotee. By seeing his material defects and consider that there is a lack of bhakti in such a person. Apiche sutracharo bhajate maam ananya sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta anashyati. Śrī Gita, as we know from Śrī Bhagavad Gita, that even if a person who is engaged exclusively in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Ananyabha, Bhajate Mam Ananyabha, and he is completely and firmly resolved to serve Krishna and engage only in that one activity, Samyak Vyavasito Hisa. Then, even if his activity happens to be extremely abominable, Sudrachara, Sadhureva Samantavya, he should be considered a saintly person. He quickly becomes a dharmic soul. He attains permanent or everlasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Krishna Bhakta Prabhu Vangshe Acharya Vangshe Janma Grahan na korileo Tahake Goswami Prabhu na janile Akrita darshan hoy matra. If a Krishna Bhakta does not take birth in a dynasty coming from the Lord, or a dynasty coming from an Acharya, a bona fide Acharya, even then, do not consider such a pure devotee of Krishna to be a Goswami or a Prabhu, is nothing but materialistic vision of such a devotee. Prabhu Vangshiya Harijan, the Acharya Vangshiya Bhakta, even Annakul, Prasut, Harijan, Ubhayi Harijan, Harijana, a devotee of Lord Hari, born in the dynasty of the Lord, or a devotee who is born in a dynasty from an Acharya, or a devotee of Lord Hari who is born in some other family. All of them are Harijanas, all of them are devotees of Lord Hari. Tahader Ubhayer Prakrita Bapudosh Gung Drishti Korite Nai. One should not look for the defects, defective qualities, defective natures of the material bodies of those persons. Shuddha Krishna Bhakta ke Laukik Drishtite Abhakter Tulla Parichaye Parimita Korile Aparadh hoy. When one develops a worldly outlook towards pure Krishna Bhakta and considers him to be as good as a non-devotee and calibrates him on that basis, that is an offense. Avar bhakti marger kinchit anusaranकारी व्यक्ति अपना के भक्ताभिमान कोया प्राकृत दुराचार संपन्न होइले उपशाखार आश्रये bhakti hoite vichuta hon. And when a person who has slightly followed the pathway of bhakti, he considers himself a devotee and he engages in materialistic, abominable activities, then he becomes deviated from bhakti because he has taken shelter of the weeds that cover up the growth of the bhakti creeper. Jini Ananna Shuddha Bhakta Ahate Prakrita Sangsarga Ba Sharir Durachar Lakhita Hoile Jini Tad Drishtite Tahake Hina Buddhi Kore Hini Ochirei Vaishnava Aparadhi Hon. That person who is an exclusive and pure devotee and whose in whom is seen abominable conduct due to his conditioned nature, material conditioned nature, or the body, habits of the body, for instance. When one develops such an outlook and considers him to be inferior, then very soon he becomes a Vaishnava Aparadhi. Abar Ananda Bhakti Labh Hoibar Purbe Jahara Prakrita Drishtite Durachar Thaken. Jahara Prakrita Drishtite Durachar Thaken. Tahade Sangadara Bhakti Vritti Nashta hoy. And then, before one comes to the state of exclusive devotional service unto Krishna, when there is abominable activity seen in such a person, according to a materialistic outlook, if one associates with such a person, then his function of bhakti becomes destroyed. The person who associates with the devotee who has not come to the point of exclusive pure devotional service and who executes some abominable activity by a material perspective, this association should be avoided, because if you associate with such a person, then one's own function of bhakti becomes destroyed. Bhajana vigya bhakti durachar thakili tad drashta tahanke dekhiya aparadhi ho. When an abominable activity is seen in a devotee who is a bhajana vigya, who is experienced in the science of devotional service, then the person who takes into account that abominable activity, he becomes an offender. Tajjanna prakrita drishtir parinam mate parinamate parimante. Tajjanna prakrita drishtir pariman mate bhakta darshan korite nished. In other words, we are forbidden from viewing devotees in terms of the extent, to whatever extent we look upon them with a materialistic vision, to that extent we are forbidden from looking at the devotees. In other words, one is not supposed to consider all these things. Tādrishya durācāre avasthan ananda bhaktir vinashkarak nahe. Being situated in such abominable behavior does not destroy one's exclusive engagement in devotional service. Parantu alpa buddhi drashtar chakhe vishesh pakarak. But they are especially dangerous for those who see them. When the seer has less intelligence. Jini Shuddha Bhakta ke prakrita drishti na dekhiya, tahar ananya bhajan drishti karen, ochirei tini mahabhagatir tadrishya duracharya darshan hoite mukta hoya swayam sadhuta labh karen. So, when we do not have a materialistic vision, outlook towards pure devotees, and rather we look at them as engaged in exclusive devotional service. I mean, when they are engaged in exclusive devotional service, you have to see only that. That is the point. Ochire tini mahabhagatir tadrisha duracharya darshan hoite mukta hoya. Then, having become liberated from the sight of the abominable activities of a Mahabhagavata, one attains the nature of a saint. Jai Sakal Bhakti Patha Ashrita Vaishnav Keval Matra Prabhu Vangsha Acharya Vangsha. O Vaishnav Vangsha Ganer Madhye Hari Bhakti Abhadda Ache Janiya নিজের প্রাকৃত দর্শনে বপু দোষাদি দৃষ্টি করেন অথবা ভক্তির অলৌকিক চেষ্টা সমূহ বুঝিতে না পারিয়া মহাভাগবতকে খর্ব দৃষ্টিতে মধ্যম ভাগবতের অধীন করিবার প্রয়াস পান, তাহাদের ভক্তি হইতে বিচ্যুতি ঘটে। All those Vaishnavas who have taken shelter of the pathway of bhakti, if they think that Hari Bhakti is arrested within the lineages descending from the Lord, the Acharyas or Vaishnavas, and who see the defects of the body and so on, because of their personal materialistic outlook, or if they don't understand the extraordinary activities of such devotees, and through their restricted vision, They consider a Mahabhagavata to be inferior to a Madhyama Bhagavata and try to bring them down to that level. Then they fall down from bhakti. Shaukra jati madonmatto hoiyao siddha bhaktir achar bujhte na pariya tahade chorane aparaj korile bhakti thakite pare na. A person who has taken birth in a seminal lineage, he may be intoxicated by pride. And when he does not understand the conduct of perfect devotees, then and he commits offenses at the feet of such devotees, then his bhakti will not remain in him. Jata ruchi siddha mahatma gune acharan na bujhiya taha digge potito mone korile Vaishnava aparadh hoy. Not understanding the behavior of the perfect Mahatmas who have already awakened their taste of devotion service. When one considers them to be fallen, then he has committed a Vaishnava aparadh. Je hetu siddha Mahatma Vaishnava Guru gane Vyavharabolite Kataksha Oha Taha Dikki Hina Gyane Okhoni Jiver Kono Angal Hoina. That's because if one develops a critical attitude, outlook towards the dealings of the spiritual master, Vaishnava spiritual masters who are perfect, great souls, and if one considers them to be inferior, then one cannot attain auspiciousness. Sutaram, therefore, prakrita drishtite siddha bhakta ke keval baddha prakrita jiva gyane shishya hone kariya satpathe anayaner cheshtai vaishnava aparadh. So if one considers a Siddha Bhakta, a perfect pure devotee of Krishna, in terms of a materialistic vision, and considers him merely to be a conditioned soul, just a materialistic person, and then if one makes that person, if one considers that this person is a disciple of mine, and tries to bring the person to the path of saintliness, that is an offense. Ojata ruti sadhuk और सिद्ध भक्ति भेद अच्छे जानिया एक व्यक्ति के शिष्य और व्यक्ति के गुरु जानते हुए. One should understand there's a difference between a sadhaka who has not come to the point of rati or bhava and a perfect devotee. A perfect devotee means he's already come to the platform of prema bhakti. You should understand there's a distinction between these two. The former person should be understood to be a disciple, and the latter person should be understood to be a spiritual master. Guru ke upadesh dite hoy bena. One should not attempt to instruct a guru. Of course, here guru, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur uses this expression guru, he's talking of a perfect pure devotee, because such a person is already heavy with Krishna prema. Shishyer nikat hoite upadesh grahan korite hoibe na ihai viveccha. And one should not take instructions from a disciple. So these things should be scrutinized. In today's class, I'll just read out this purport and explain it. In the next class, I'll continue further. Okay. Shuddha Bhakti, the activity of the soul Prabhu. In other words, engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is performed in a liberated condition. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Mam vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sargunan samatita brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Vicharena bhakti means unalloyed devotion. A person engaged in devotional service must be free from material motives. In this Krishna consciousness movement, one's consciousness must be changed. If consciousness is aimed toward material enjoyment, it is material consciousness. And if it is aimed towards serving Krishna, it is Krishna consciousness. A surrendered soul serves Krishna without material considerations. Anyavilashita shunya, jnana karmadhyanavati. Another devotion service which is transcendental to the activities of the body and mind, such as jnana, mental speculation, and karma, fruitive work. It's called pure bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is a proper activity of the soul. And when one actually engages in unalloyed, uncontaminated devotional service, he is already liberated. Sagunan samatitya itan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Krishna's devotee is not subjected to material condition, even though his bodily features may appear materially conditioned. One should therefore not see a pure devotee from a materialistic point of view. So all of this is with reference to pure devotional service. We are not talking about pure devotees or impure devotees. We are not talking of impure devotees at all. We are talking only of pure devotees. One should therefore not see a pure devotee from a materialistic point of view. Unless one is actually a devotee, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. As explained in the previous verse, there are three types of devotees: Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Uttamadhikari. The Kanishtadhikari cannot distinguish between a devotee and non-devotee. He is simply concerned with worshipping the deity in the temple. A Madhyamadhikari, however, can distinguish between the devotee and non-devotee, as well as between the devotee and the Lord. Thus, he treats the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotee and the non-devotee, in different ways. No one should criticize the bodily defects of a pure devotee. If there are such defects, they should be overlooked. What should be taken into account is the spiritual master's main business, which is devotional service, pure service to the Supreme Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Paches viracharo bhajate mam ananya bhav sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. Even if a devotee sometimes seems to engage in abominable activities, he should be considered a sadhu, a saintly person, because his actual identity is that of one engaged in the loving service of the Lord. In other words, he is not to be considered an ordinary human being. So the idea is that once one has surrendered unto the Lord, that person should not be considered to be an ordinary person. And those who have come to the point of pure devotional service to Krishna, they should be awarded more respect. The distinction between the devotees should not be on the basis of their material attributes. Even though a pure devotee may not be born in a Brahmin or Goswami family, he is engaged in the service of the Lord, he should not be neglected. In actuality, there cannot be a family of Goswamis based on material considerations, caste or heredity. The Goswami title is actually the monopoly of the pure devotees. Thus we speak of the 6 Goswamis headed by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami had practically become Mohammedans and had therefore changed their names to Dabir Khas, and Sakhar Malik. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself made them Goswamis. So the point is, Goswami is not a title. Now you may wonder why Prabhupada has to say that. That's because in India, in Bengal, Goswami is a title. You come across all kinds of persons who are not at all even engaged in devotional service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who may even be serious materialists, but he has a family name, surname, Goswami. Maybe I'm completely married, but we call Goswami. The word Goswami, the Goswami title is not hereditary. The word Goswami refers to one who can control his senses, who is master of the senses. A devotee is not controlled by the senses, but is a controller of the senses. Consequently, he should be called Swami or Goswami, even though he may not be born in a Goswami family. According to this formula, the Goswamis who are descendants of Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaita Prabhu are certainly devotees. But devotees coming from other families should not be discriminated against. Indeed, whether the devotees come from a family of previous acharyas or from an ordinary family, they should be treated equally. One should not think, oh, here is an American Goswami, and discriminate against him. Nor should one think, here is a Nityananda Vamsha Goswami. There is an undercurrent of protest against our awarding the title Goswami to the American Vaishnavas of the Krishna consciousness movement. Just a minute. Sometimes people flatly tell the American devotees that their sannyas or title of Goswami is not bona fide. However, according to the statements of Srila Rupa Goswami in this verse, an American Goswami and a Goswami in a family of acharyas are non-different. I have myself witnessed statements almost to this effect within even some members of ISKCON, who are generally quiet out of social pressure, but who have a tendency to think like this. But these are all very, very dangerous conceptions. Very dangerous conceptions. On the other hand, a devotee who has attained the title of Goswami, but is not born of a Brahmin father or of a Goswami in the family of Nityananda or Advaita Prabhu, should not be artificially puffed up by thinking that he has become a Goswami. So it works both ways. We should not start thinking that, oh, I'm not born in one of these great family lines, and therefore I'm great. That is another senseless, nonsensical idea. He should always remember that as soon as he becomes materially puffed up, he immediately falls down. This Krishna consciousness movement is a transcendental science, And there is no room for jealousy. This movement is meant for the Paramahamsas who are completely free from all jealousy. Paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Dharma prajita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. One should not be jealous whether he's born in a family of Goswamis or has the title of Goswami awarded to him. As soon as anyone becomes envious, he falls from the platform of Paramahamsa. So these are all upadhis, designations, titles. When we get these titles, let us not fall into the trap of taking these things too seriously. Not that if I get a certain reputation or get some recognition by the mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnavas, and then on the basis of that, I become malicious but towards other devotees, then these things are very, very problematic, very dangerous. As soon as anyone becomes envious, he falls from the platform of Paramahamsa. If we consider the bodily defects of a Vaishnava, we should understand that we are committing an offense at the lotus feet of the Vaishnava. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is very serious. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described this offense as Hati Mata, the mad elephant offense. A mad elephant can create a disaster, especially when it enters into a nicely trimmed garden. One should therefore be very careful not to commit any offense against a Vaishnava. Every devotee should be ready to take instructions from a superior Vaishnava. Superior Vaishnava means one who is superior in Krishna consciousness right now. I might have been superior to some devotee in the past, but right now, we both may be equals, or that devotee may be superior to me in spiritual progress. So then I should be ready to take instructions from such a superior Vaishnava. All of this requires that we take up the austerity of swallowing up our false ego that keeps disturbing us in our attempts to progress in Krishna consciousness. Every devotee should be ready to take instructions from a superior Vaishnava. And a superior Vaishnava must be ready to help an inferior Vaishnava in all respects. One is superior or inferior according to his spiritual development in Krishna consciousness. One is forbidden to observe the activities of a pure Vaishnava from a material point of view. For the neophyte especially, considering a pure devotee from a material point of view is very injurious. One should therefore avoid observing a pure devotee externally, but should try to see the internal features and understand how he is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. See, Krishna consciousness, as taught by Rupa Goswami, is already a science. There are invariable symptoms given for devotees engaged in different statuses. And there are ways to understand the degree of spiritual progress. There are ways to understand. So it is on that basis we should discriminate, saying, okay, he is a first-class devotee, he is second-class devotee, third-class devotee, and so on. Not from the material point of view. That discrimination should happen from the spiritual point of view. For the neophyte especially, considering a pure devotee from a material point of view is very injurious. One should therefore avoid observing a pure devotee externally, but should try to see the internal features and understand how he is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In this way, one can avoid seeing the pure devotee from a material point of view. And thus, one can gradually become a purified devotee himself. Those who think that Krishna consciousness is limited to a certain section of people, a certain section of devotees, or a certain tract of land, are generally prone to see the external features of the devotee. Such neophytes, unable to appreciate the exalted service of the advanced devotee, try to bring the Mahabhagavata to that platform. We experience such difficulty in propagating this Krishna consciousness all over the world. Unfortunately, we are surrounded by neophyte God brothers who do not appreciate the extraordinary activities of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. And by spreading Krishna consciousness, means by spreading pure Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada spreading pure Krishna consciousness. They simply try to bring us to their platform and they try to criticize us in every respect. We very much regret their naive activities and poor fund of knowledge. An empowered person who is actually engaged in a confidential service of the Lord should not be treated as an ordinary human being. For it is stated that unless one is empowered by Krishna, one cannot spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. When one thus criticizes a pure devotee, he commits an offense, Vaishnava para. That is very obstructive and dangerous for those who desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. A person cannot derive any spiritual benefit when he offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written an essay called Vaishnava Ninda, blasphemy of Vaishnavas. And that is actually part of our Nāmāśraya-bhakti study also. We will come to that. But Bhaktivinoda will talk about the significance of this. Everyone should therefore, a person cannot derive any spiritual benefit when he offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Everyone should therefore be very careful not to be jealous of an empowered Vaishnava or a Shuddha Vaishnava. It is also an offense to consider an empowered Vaishnava an object of disciplinary action. It is offensive to try to give him advice or to correct him. One can distinguish between a neophyte Vaishnava and an advanced Vaishnava by their activities. The advanced Vaishnava is always situated as a spiritual master, and the neophyte is always considered his disciple. The spiritual master must not be subjected to the advice of a disciple, nor should a spiritual master be obliged to take instructions from those who are not his disciples. That means they are not even devotees. This is the sum and substance of Śrīla Rupa Goswami's advice in the 6th verse. Okay, this I will take it up in the next session. So let me make a note. Actually, for Nāmāśraya-bhakti, I'm planning to deal only with up to text 7 in Upadeśāmṛta. Then we'll go to Nāmāśraya. There was a question. And then Pranam Prabhu. On what basis the superiority, seniority of a Vaishnava is determined? It is on the basis of one's spiritual advancement. We see in the purport to Nectar of Instruction, text 5, there are various criteria that are given. There is criteria given on the basis of conviction, on the basis of the ability to philosophically establish the conclusions of Krishna Bhakti. There is also another consideration in terms of how much of the chanting is done properly or purely. Then there is the consideration of how much is attached to the service of Krishna and those who are dear to Krishna and so on. So there are various criteria. We should examine all of these criteria This will help us understand who is more advanced, who is less advanced. It is not on the basis of one's age. It is not on the basis of the time of one's first initiation, second initiation. It is not on the basis of mere theoretical knowledge and understanding also. It is not on the basis of the number of years spent in Krishna consciousness also. All of these will require that we give customary respect. That is conventional respect. According to Pancharatrika rules, we need to, and according to the rules of Varnashama Dharma itself, we need to be respectful to those who have more knowledge and so on. But that is a convention, that is a custom, it is a duty. But to correctly understand who's more advanced, who's less advanced, for this you need to develop some amount of spiritual general knowledge with which you can understand who's more advanced, who's less advanced. All of that requires training by Hariguru Vaishnavas. Unless one is trained by the spiritual master or the Vaishnavas, it is difficult to do these things by oneself. Any other question? No other questions? Siddha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Danat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. In your talk, Prabhu, there was a statement which goes like this, that unless one is empowered by the Lord, he cannot spread Krishna consciousness, something like that. And then now, currently we see that there are certain devotees who may be apparently increasing the number of devotees in their temples or centers. But when we closely observe their own character or conduct or attitude, then we don't see that he is really, means we feel suspicious. We find it suspicious that if he's really empowered by the Supreme Lord, and so how to understand Prabhu? But we see that more number of people he's able to attract more number of people in his centers, in his temples. So what is the criteria to understand
that? There are different degrees to which we can convince others to take to Krishna consciousness. If I am a Madhyama Vaishnava, I can convince others to become Madhyama Vaishnava. I cannot make them into Uttama Vaishnavas. If I am a Kanishta Vaishnava, I can only make them into Kanishta Vaishnavas. So I can indeed increase the number of Vaishnavas. That's a fact. But I can only bring them up to my level. I cannot make them more than that. So Krishna Shakti Vinana Heta Atmavartan refers to spreading of pure chanting of the holy names. That is the Lord's mission. Prema Pracharam. To distribute love of Krishna. The Madhyama Vaishnava cannot spread love of Krishna, but he can spread lower levels of bhakti. Same thing with Kanishta Vaishnavas. They can spread even lower levels of bhakti.
Prabhu, I have another question with respect to today's class. Today's one point was that we should not see a pure devotee from a materialistic point of view. So you are referring that this is indicating pure devotee, pure Vaishnava, not ordinary or Kanishta, the Vaishnavas. So in our society, we see that devotees come from various backgrounds and from various places in India, within India, or outside India. Like some devotees may come from Tamil Nadu, or some may come from Andhra, Bengal. So it has been seen that within the temples, the authorities tend to see them based on their previous backgrounds. Like if someone is from a Brahman family, or someone is from they tend to see them as per their previous places, family, education, and so many other things, caste. So now, but here it is said that only it refers to pure devotee. So can we see any devotee from a materialistic point of view, and it may not, it won't be offensive, Prabhu? Hope I am clear.
First of all, this verse is specifically about pure devotees and perfect pure devotees. When it comes to impure devotees of Krishna, we also need to see to what extent their material conditioning or the defects of their bodies are impacting their ability to make spiritual progress. If it is actually an obstruction to their spiritual progress, then that will certainly be considered a parameter to deal with. If it is not a matter of obstruction, then one should not discriminate against them on the basis of that particular material condition. That requires some usage of intelligence. Sudhi Vaishnava. Krishna Chakravarti uses this expression, Sudhi Bhakta, devotees of fine intelligence. They will be able to recognize who are fake devotees, who are pure devotees. Like this, Vishwanath Chakravarti makes statements to this effect. So those who are sadhakas with fine intelligence will be able to understand when these things have an impact, when they don't have an impact. But once one comes to the platform of pure devotion service to Krishna, what to speak of perfect pure devotion service to Krishna, for them these have no relevance at all.
Then, Prabhu, is it okay to consider some devotees based on their previous conditioning, upbringing, or things like that? Is it?
If that is a factor which is influencing them negatively in their attempts to obey Rupa Goswami, then yes. If it is not a factor, then no. One should see. One should see.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Leela Madhuri Lalita Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dhanyavad Pranam. Prabhu, in the class you said that based on materialistic things we shouldn't discriminate the devotees, but based on spiritual things we have to discriminate. So can you please tell some things, certain things based on which we can discriminate? That is one question. And the second question, the Prabhu asked one question.
See, that Nectar of Instruction text 5, there are various criteria based on which
text 5.
We are told this is
Okay.
this is a Madhyama, this is Uttam. There are at least 3 or 4 different criteria given. One is from the 11th canto, one is from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's talks with Satyaraj Khan, Chaitanya Charitamrita. One is on the basis of Shraddha. One, yes, at least three different criteria. And then if you include Nectar of Instruction text 5, then that is another criteria. So much of graphic details have been given. But we are able to do these things when we make spiritual progress. When we are stuck with elementary elements of the elementary basis of Krishna consciousness itself, then we don't have the spiritual intelligence to go to the next level, to discriminate between the Vaishnavas and all that. First step is self-discipline, self-control, all these things. The first 3 verses, these are all preliminary. Once these things are done, then we are capable of properly respecting and serving Krishna's devotees and properly respecting and serving Krishna. Those things come later. First we wash our plates, then we eat our meal. So the first 3 verses are preliminary. It's like washing the plate. Most of us have issues with that itself. So we should first of all deal with that. Then it becomes easier to do other things. Otherwise, simple instructions become so mystical and puzzling, so mysterious, and just a simple thing, but it becomes so puzzling. Why it is so puzzling is clear. We haven't passed in primary school, and we are trying to solve the problems presented to high school students. So
Correct.
you need to understand.
And one more question, the previous question asked by some Prabhu, he said that the temple or the centers, admin, I mean the president or whoever it is, the authorities, based on their capacity, as per your statement, the if they are Madhyamadhikari, they will be producing only Madhyamadhikari devotees. So if I wanted to become a Uttamadhikari, what should I do if I have an authority in that way?
In Nectar of Instruction, text 5, Rupa Goswami clearly says how to deal with the Kanishta, how to respect a Kanishta Vaishnava, how to respect a Madhyama Vaishnava, how to respect an Uttama Vaishnava. So if I want to become an Uttama Vaishnava, then I'll have to respect the Uttama Vaishnava. There's a way of respecting them. One should serve them menially, one should seek their association. Sevaya applies to the Uttama Vaishnava. So that is what we do when we become eligible to become Uttama Vaishnavas. Most of the time, we are not as exalted as we imagine or fantasize. As we progress, it takes some time until we come to terms with reality. That is actually just coming to the platform of Sattva-guna. When you come to the point of Sattva-guna, that is Kanishta Vaishnava actually. Afterwards, we make further spiritual progress.
By discriminating the devotees like that, am I not offending them?
No. Obedience to Rupa Goswami cannot be an offense at all. But that's, again, I'm saying, because we haven't passed our earlier exam.
Elementary school.
We have so many arrears. We need to clear off all of them. Everything has its time and place, and Krishna, who's more eager than us to help us progress, he is watching. There is enthusiasm, there is also strength, there is weakness, there is consideration of sincerity. Now, I may be sincere, but I may be weak also. I may have a weak desire to make progress. So then Krishna will subject me to certain experiences to the degree I want to get rid of this weakness. To that degree, Krishna will subject me to certain experiences which will pull me forward. So basically, it is more or less a fight between myself and myself, not between me and Maya. Because I have to come to terms with the reality about myself. It's very easy to say that I am an eternal servant of Krishna. If you carefully examine what it means, is a servant's business is simply to do whatever the master says. In India, they say, it means when you're told to stand up, you stand up. When you're told to sit down, you sit down. It means that we just do what we are told to do. We exist for somebody else's pleasure. That's from the philosophical point of view, it's very easy to say it. That is knowledge. Even understanding to some degree we get it, but realization. So first of all, we have to deal with these preliminaries. That is why if you see the Kanishta Vaishnava, he is interested in cultivating love for Krishna, but he neglects Krishna's devoted servants and Krishna's non-devoted servants. And then we come across the Madhyama Vaishnava, who is cultivating love for Krishna and who has friendship towards Krishna's devoted servants, and who is compassionate towards the innocent, non-devoted servants of Krishna, and who neglects the demoniac, non-devoted servants of Krishna. So he has a way of dealing with them. The Kanishta Vaishnava does not deal with them at all. That's why he simply neglects them. The Madhyama Vaishnava only neglects the demoniac, non-devoted. So on this basis, we understand that in between the Kanishta Vaishnava and Madhyama Vaishnava, there must be a stage where one cultivates love for Krishna and friendship for devotees, while neglecting innocent non-devotees and demoniac non-devotees. So it is a gradual development. Even from that we see, first of all, the focus is Krishna. That is love for Krishna. Ishvare tadadineshu balisheshu dushatsucha prema maitri kripa upeksha. 4 different attitudes. For Krishna, it is prema, love. We want to develop love for Krishna. We do not want to develop friendship for Krishna. We don't want to develop compassion for Krishna. We don't want to develop neglect of Krishna. So first principle is that. Without compromising that, then we go to the next step. We want to develop friendship for Krishna's devotees. Not love for devotees, friendship for devotees. Not compassion for devotees, not neglect of devotees, but friendship with devotees, maitri. So it is a step-by-step development. And there are 6 factors which help us progress. There are 6 factors which help us regress. So on that basis, we gradually begin to understand the relative importance of each of these 4. These things are things which we learn. These things cannot actually be just taught verbally or simply through text or writing and all that. These are things, even if they are communicated, we need to understand and we need to realize the truth of this in our own experience of Krishna consciousness. It takes time. For those of us, vast majority of us want a lot of time. So, to us. In the meanwhile, we can cry to Krishna. We can cry to Radha Krishna. My dear energy of Krishna, my dear Krishna, please engage me in your devotional service. I have 0 intelligence. Please forgive me. Please, I'm irrationally engaged in activities that degrade me. I'm impulsively engaged in activities that degrade me. Please, pull me up. Please, make me do things which will make it easier to progress towards you. So, we need to ask Krishna that. The duck that quacks the most gets the most food. All right. Anything else?
Prabhu, sincerity means, does it mean that how sincerely I pray to the Lord and how much effort I put to practice my devotional service? Is it the way I have to understand?
Are not clear about what is the meaning of sincerity. Oh, sorry. Sincerity actually simply means lack of duplicity. Lack of duplicity, lack of diplomacy. The exact expression is akaitavata. Akaitava. Kaitava means duplicitous, diplomatic. Akaitava means non-duplicitous, non-diplomatic. That is sincere. So at least in front of Krishna, we should not, even if we deceive everyone around us, devotees, non-devotees, semi-devotees, even if we try to deceive ourselves, at least in front of Krishna, we should be frank. At least in front of Krishna, it's just one person. If I speak untruth to the doctor who's trying to cure me, that is the hope of me becoming healthy. I might deceive other persons in my family, or maybe due to whatever embarrassment, whatever. But how can I speak untruth to the doctor when he asks me a question about whether I'm taking the medicine, diet, to what degree I'm breaking them and all that? That is like suicide. It makes no sense. All right.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. Vanshākalpatarvyaśya kripāsindhubhyo vacha patitānam pāvanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaः.